let's do it.
Okay, hi, welcome everybody. I'm so happy you're here. It's kind of cold, but everybody made it. It's actually freezing. Thanks for having me. Just to give everybody a tiny intro on me, my name's Umbereen Inayet. I'm a curator, producer at the City of Toronto and in my own global projects. So I've done things like Nuit Blanche over the years. I work at Toronto History Museums. And I've done some shows in Saudi Arabia. That was my latest. And yeah, I've known Gabrielle for, I think, a long time.
2013.
Yeah. So I'm going to read your bio, but I actually have an artwork in my house that Gabrielle made for me. And I had it out for 13 years. I never got tired of it.
Yeah.
She commissioned this piece of
My
the
first
ocean.
tapestry.
Yeah. I was like, can you make me something that's 10 feet long and like 5 feet high? And you had never done that before, but
that was my first
you
one.
jumped right into it. And it was just so beautiful and calming. Like I literally looked at it every single day, never got tired of it.
Yay.
Yeah. I remember when I took it down, I was like, I'm so sad.
We're going to do something
As something new.
with it,
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to read your bio.
Yes.
Gabrielle is a multidisciplinary creative based in Toronto with a rich and diverse portfolio spanning over 2 decades in the art and design industry based in Toronto. She's also French. She speaks French very well. From small artistic creations to large-scale installations, Gabrielle works with various mediums and a strong emphasis on batik, of course, which we'll get into. But I feel like you're multidisciplinary, if you would agree with that.
For sure, yeah.
And you also love to dance. Yeah. Her artist mandate drives her to continuously explore self-expression while communicating messages of genuine expansion, growth, and creativity. Notable recent events include presenting her award-winning project, Fluid Connectivité, in the downtown core for Nuit Blanche, Toronto, listed as a top 25 installation to visit. That's big. That's over 1 million people go to see that event, so that's awesome. She was awarded a public art project from the city of Moncton to produce a 2-part multi-layered sculpture for a permanent exhibition. And exciting, you are now licensed creating wallpaper designs for commercial retail spaces. That's huge. And then you and I worked together on the Indian International Film Awards. I asked Gabrielle to basically design the site for us with like Bollywood themes.
It was right up my alley.
It was amazing. It was beautiful and vibrant. And then we worked together at this project called The Burn, which was a 24-hour ceremony we did at City Hall on I think it was the 3-year anniversary of COVID-19.
Yes.
And so Gabrielle came to moderate that and host it for us, and Julie Black performed.
Reluctantly.
No, you were great.
She's like, you can do this. I'm like, no.
I was like, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Okay.
I worked it out.
So let's get into the convo.
Yes.
Tell us about yourself. Before we get into the work that we're looking at today, tell us about yourself. When did you know that I'm an artist? What was going on in your life? How did you feel? Take us back to that moment. What did it look like?
Interesting. I think I've always been an artist in my head. I've always been creating. I can't remember a time that I haven't been creating. I remember being like in my early teens, buying the Vogue magazines and spending hours drawing. And it naturally evolved, but the funny thing is I actually didn't want to go in the creative field because I was scared I was going to hate art. So I went and did something completely different for many years, and then I went back to art and design. When I thought to myself, I'm an actual professional artist, I would say like 2009 is when I really started my career as an artist. My son was a year old and I had my first art exhibit with Melissa actually. And everybody's like, how do you have time to do this? You have a kid. And I was like, it's important. And he was like slung on my, remember? He was slung on my hip, and we showed an exhibition, and I don't know, it just naturally evolved, and I was, by that point, I was a freelance designer as well, and it just started to just, and then when I truly thought like, okay, I could really do this is probably when I was living by myself and I really had to live from my stuff. So yeah, it's always been with me, but more and more now it's just the way everything is syncing up and the opportunities that I have. It's like, right, I was meant to do this, and now it's like I've found my path. So yeah.
What were you doing before?
I was.
If you don't mind me asking.
I was I was customer service. I was a French customer service at Sprint, which is now Rogers.
Wow.
And I hated my job. And then one day, my manager said something to me, and I just remember looking down and hearing this click, and I was like, please don't let me lose my mind with her right now. And literally the next week, I think I applied to George Brown.
Wow.
And submitted a portfolio and got in.
But you were making art the whole time.
Yeah, I was actually selling art to make ends meet.
Wow.
For me and my son. I was selling like portraits and and t-shirts. I would sling t-shirts. I would draw the t-shirt motif, and then I would show it to people, and I would pre-sell to make enough money to buy the box of t-shirts and get them printed. Like that was 1995.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So you get the hustle.
Yeah, I've been slinging for a while.
So do you think you sort of having that catalyst moment where you're like, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm doing my art, has that affected how you make your work? Like, how does your personal life speak to your artistic practice? Like, where does that voice come from?
It's huge. It's been something that has driven me time and time again to really focus on what it is I want to talk about. And it's getting clearer as I get to know myself, because as I grow and do the work, go to therapy and talk and do all these things, I've been able to tap into myself and know what I need to talk about. And more it's making sense. Like before, it didn't make sense as to why I wanted to do things, but then, and now I'm like, oh, that's why I want it, because I really focus on our emotions and connecting with the art, and it's all making sense now. Whereas before it didn't, but I think it's because I'm more tuned in and I also trust myself more now. Yeah.
So what emotions do you think fuel your work?
I think there's a lot of, that's funny. I think there's a lot of me working out my own crap, kind of. But in a way, it's interesting because as I do that and I share it, then people connect to it more because they see themselves in my work. And I wouldn't say necessarily my abstract work, because I do portraiture as well as abstract, but my portraiture especially, because what I've done is I'm trying to work out a problem within myself. And so then I will express it, and then I'll create, let's say, one of my pieces was, I started this whole goddess series, and it just started to develop that I was always drawing these women. And then I started writing after I finished a piece. And then I presented this whole exhibition called Goddess Flex, the Art of Self-Love, because it was just my journey from, I would say, 2013. And when I presented the show, it was so humbling because there was people that were like actually emotional looking at it, because they're like, I'm seeing myself. So it was really great. And I think that's one of the moments too where you're realizing like, oh, I'm actually like part of like their therapy in a way, you know, because that was my therapy. I mean, I think that was, because a lot of times I create stuff and I'm like, why the hell did you do that? And then I finish the piece and I write, and then I'm like, oh, okay. But there's a huge correlation between my abstract work and my portraiture, because there's a lot of like flow, letting go, you know, like it's a circle because they all feed each other. So there's flow in my portraiture, and then there's flow in my installations, and flow in my abstract, flow in my pattern work, you know?
So I'm just going to jump to a question I wanted to bring up later, but I'll bring it up now. So you did the inner work, and it was reflected on the outer work. How important do you think that is for artists who are making work to continue to self-reflect and be self-aware? Yeah.
Huge, huge. It's so crazy because I talk about this all the time. Like, art is so so intimate. Push hard. There we go. It's so intimate because you're literally, I say this all the time, it's like I'm creating and then I'm literally being like, hey, like, here you go. Here's who I am. Like, how do you like it?
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, it's horrifying yet so exhilarating. And I mean, some of the most brilliant artists have been the most troubled people. And for some people it helps them, some people it doesn't. They just need to get it out so they don't go completely mad. But we can see with like some of the greatest artists are so brilliant and, you know, then committed suicide because they can't process stuff. I'm very lucky in that I think I'm creative yet very practical. Like, I think it's my Virgo side of me, like, just like, okay, you know, like, buck up, you know, you got this. So, but yeah, I think it's great that we have it, you know, and that's what part of, I guess, my mandate or mission now as an artist is to bring people into that and tell them that they can resolve so many things if they just tap in to themselves.
Yeah. So it's like an energy exchange.
Yeah.
The work that artist puts into the work actually comes out and it connects to the other person on the other side, and hopefully it'll unlock something.
Yeah, and it gives them this permission. Like it's like a permission to be and to look at things and feel and get to know yourself through that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like even for this installation, people are just standing outside of it, and I actually made a sign that says you're encouraged to interact with this installation. And then once you go in, how do you feel? Like, are you just gonna stand there, or what are you really tapping into and understanding, you know? So, yeah.
So then let's start moving into the intention behind your work. Like, what do you want your work to do for society? Like, why are you making it? How do you want it to serve?
For the longest time, I didn't really know. I just knew I had to get it out. But now I'm understanding that part of the mission of my work is for people to be able to tap in. And I've been using this word now, it's like emotional liberation, because I really love this idea of looking at something and telling somebody, like, or giving them permission on how they should feel. So I realized that I was doing that without even realizing, like, so, you know, for one piece, it would be like, it would just be an explanation of the piece, but it would say, like, this is how she felt, right? And then for my abstract stuff, it talks a lot about flow. And, you know, there's one piece, it's called extrêmement, which means extremely. And it was something that I was working out within myself, because I would always get this feedback, like, oh, you're too much, you're too loud, you're too this, you're too that. And I was just like, I took it on as it was a bad thing. And so I beat myself up about it for so long. And then finally I was like, why can't I be who I am? And if you don't like it, then please, you know? And so I started to look at my art like that, like, hey, you can look at this and how do you feel? Like, how does it make you feel? And will that give you the courage to do something that you may not necessarily have thought to do? Or will it make you introspect on how you can let it go? Because that's a big theme in my work, is letting go, like
Yeah.
let it go. You know,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of friends here, so they will know. I can't let go of things, and it's like a real struggle for me. So it was like giving myself permission to be like, this is how you should feel, or maybe not how you should feel, but this is how it feels, and like process that, you know? And I would love people to look at my work that way, like, and even I translate that into my patterns. Like when I create patterns now, I say feels like, because visually you can tap in, and you can tap into anything. If you really let yourself tap into things, like you will actually see things, and the art will explain itself to you. If you let it, you could just look at something and be like, that's cute. And I do that a lot too. I'll look at something and say, oh, I really like this. This is nice. But then if you really let it, you're like, oh, you know, like this is really dope piece. So
it's almost like an invitation for people to let go and see what comes through.
Yeah.
Like it's like a portal, or
yeah.
That's awesome.
We don't give ourselves that permission.
Yeah.
A lot of times, you
Yeah.
know, we just see things at face value, and as humans, you can't just look at me or you and say, okay, that's who she is. And that happens. We know this. This happens all the time. But like, if you truly get to know somebody, like, oh, she's this, she's that, or she likes this, and this what makes her interesting, or she really likes hip hop, or she really like, you know, like, in all sorts of ways. I think it's like important to.
Yeah. And you really love music, and
yeah.
music, I find when you listen to it, can allow you to just
Yeah.
be. And I think your work kind of has the same principles around.
It does, yeah.
It allows you to get into flow state and
Yeah, absolutely.
see what comes up.
Yeah, I've especially during COVID, like I was by myself. My kids were at their dad's house, and it was just me, and it was so quiet. Like I wasn't used to it, and so I would have music on like, all the time, and then I started creating, and then I started really tapping into like deep house, and it just took me to this place where I would just be like, holy smokes, like I never had worked like that before, so it was really great. And now I'm like that nerd that'll look for the perfect song for my posts or like the perfect song that'll go with that pattern, or that because I think that's part of the experience.
Yeah.
You know, I have a soundscape for this that I had a friend of mine who's a producer create for me, and I collaborated with him, and I think it's like it's like this whole package, which excites me.
Yeah, you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's awesome. It's like this language.
Yeah.
So tell us about your creative process. What is it like when you're about to create or you're thinking about it? Walk us through what gets you into that flow state.
I mean, I get ideas all the time. I call them downloads, and they could happen anywhere. Like you'll see my eyes glaze over. I've had it happen at the grocery store, like, you know.
Wow.
But a lot of times, which is interesting, a lot of times my ideas don't come from me actually sketching. They come from me just sitting and chilling. And I actually write down my ideas, which is the weirdest thing. But it's been a couple of years now where I've just started to do that. Like all of a sudden I'll be like, it'll come, I'll see it, and then I'll be like, okay, let me write it out. And I'll write out all the details. And I might do like a very rough sketch, and then the next day I'll look at it and be like, okay, how is this gonna work? And then that's when like my actual art brain will turn on, because then I'll think of solutions on how to create it. So I mean,
so sitting like your brain is off, like meditative kind of vibe, and then
it could be like that. I mean, I love dancing and going out and listening to music. So a lot of times my downloads will come then while I'm dancing. It'll be like I could be talking to somebody. I love collaborative work as well. So I have like friends who are hugely talented, and we'll sit and we'll just come up with ideas like, oh, this would be really cool. And then it'll turn into something, or it may not. You know, I have a Wonder Woman book that I write all my ideas in, and you know, some of them I've done, some of them I haven't, and I bank them. It's like my little idea bank.
Awesome.
In terms of my process, it depends what I'm working on, but yeah, there's usually music. There's usually me taking up the whole of the living room, kitchen. My kid is used to it. He's just, you know, just another day in the house. Yeah, yeah.
So you've gone into so many different mediums. Can you walk us through all of them?
Yeah. And the thing to note too is, for the longest time, I really beat myself up about being so widely spanned. I think it's partially because, you know, we see artists doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I was always like, you just gotta stick to one thing, but I can't. I just can't. And again, that just comes with my knowing myself. And getting to know myself. So I've just given myself the permission to be like, hey, you like to do that, just do it. Like, who cares? But it took me a long time to get there, especially because I think I create as a profession, as a designer, and then I'm artistic. So my brain is always on. Like, I'm always like, my marketing brain sometimes, I'm like, shut up, can you just stop thinking about that? So, sorry, what was the question?
So it sounds like you need to create. Like that's part of your life.
Yeah.
And now you've given yourself permission to go
multidisciplinary.
multidisciplinary. So what was that moment where you're like, you know what, F it, I'm just gonna do it?
I don't think there's been an actual like aha moment. I've always done different things because my parents are very creative in their own way, and they do a wide range of things. So we would know how to make things, drill things, paint things. Like, so it's always been the way I've grown up. Like my dad built boats. My mom was part of the fashion industry for many years. So there was always scraps of paper, fabric, whatever. So originally, you know, like it's just natural. But I will say that it's only within, I would say, the last 3 years that I've truly embraced it, because I ended up like getting a coach and working with like a business coach.
Oh, cool.
And I kept saying to her, like, I gotta pick one thing. Am I gonna do design or art? And she's like, what you gotta pick? And I was like, I don't know. Like, isn't that what you're supposed to do? And she's like, no. And I think like with the onset of like Virgil Abloh and all these people who just tap into all their skills, I just started thinking like, why can't you just do this? Like, why not? Just do it.
So you gave yourself that permission.
Yeah, I gave I'm my biggest critic. I'm the biggest police to Gabrielle. I'm her. Like, I will police myself to the end of days. I'm better now, but before I had very strict rules as to how things should work.
Yeah. Well, it speaks to your evolution.
Yeah.
So you do batik. Walk us through all the different.
Right. So at the base of it, I draw portraiture. So I do a lot of pencil work. I do chalk. I do watercolor. I used to do acrylic. I don't like acrylic. And then in like 2008, I learned how to batik, and that has been like literally the love of my life, just come and appear. And I think it was because batik. So I'll tell you guys what batik is, because not too many people know. But it's literally using dyes on fabric, and then you use wax to block off colors on the fabric. And I just took to that medium so much because I think there is this aspect of layering that I really fell in love with, and I couldn't find that anywhere else. because I would do all this stuff like I would always just stack art on top of each other and like rip and do all this fabric stuff. And when I realized like what batik could be, like it just blew my mind. And I don't even know like 10%, I would say. And even though I've been doing it since 2008.
But it's super unique. Where did you learn how to do batik?
Right, so I learned from David Kabuka, who is a Ugandan artist, and he lives here, and he was doing a class at that African store on Bloor. And I met him, and I took a class, and then back to back, I took all his classes. Like I just went to all his classes, and I just couldn't get enough of it. And then I outgrew him in terms of what I wanted to know. And so then I started doing research on like because he calls it modern batik. And I called it modern batik for a long time as well, because it was the way his technique was. But there's so much more to batik than that. So then I started doing research on where batik is from, where it's used, because I learned from him, which is the method from Uganda, but it's also used in Java, Indonesia, like all parts of Africa in very, very different ways as well. There's also batik. Batik is used historically in Europe, in Russia, in Ukraine on eggs. Like that's a batik technique. So it's like, it's why?
Crazy.
Like I love it, and I want to learn more. I probably know, I would say 10%. But I keep learning, like, and the thing is, like, I connect now with these artists. Like, there's this artist in Ghana, and she, one of my biggest setbacks that I couldn't figure out what to do was in Indonesia, they use these they're called japs, which are stamps, and they're made out of brass. What's the orange? The brass. And it's really hard to craft them. It's super cheap to get it done there, but nobody does that here. And anyways, I came across this artist in Ghana who uses these fat foam, and she would carve her stuff out and stamp it.
Foam
so
core.
then, no, it's not foam core. It's
core?
like, what is that stuff? I don't know. It's like for
Okay.
furniture. And I remember I woke up one day and I had reached out to her. I woke up at 4 a.m. because, life. And I had like a 1.5 hour conversation with her on how to make these stamps, which then I created.
Okay,
so
awesome.
it's just, so yeah, I do batik, I do digital. So I got myself an iPad, and I started doing digital stuff on Procreate. I started drawing patterns on Procreate as well. I do installations, I do murals, I do design work. Sometimes we collab on jewelry. Oops. I don't know, I'm like anything creative, like I'm down. Like I have a friend who does pottery. She's like, hey, do you want to carve stuff on pottery? I'm like, sure. Sometimes I have to focus because I would love to do a whole bunch of stuff, but that's why I got the coach. So she keeps me, like, I have my pillars, so now I'm like, is it within the pillar? But, Gabrielle.
That's awesome.
But because, like, I have a little bit of ADD when it comes to creativity, because why not? Like, why not try that? Because who knows what could come out of it.
Yeah.
Right?
And why textiles? Like, do you like the feel? Or?
Well, I think originally my mom's been, so my mom has been in the fashion industry. So she was like 15 when she started working in France, and then she came here. She's worked for like the biggest designers in Toronto. And I was like her fitting model, so I would always go to the workshops and have to stand there and get like pricked by the pin or whatever, but then I was always surrounded by all this fabric. And she would always throw out the most beautiful fabric. So she had like this Dupioni silk, and I'm like, why are you throwing this out? She's like, it's scrap. So I would take that, I would cut it up, I would make these pieces. So I think like, I just love, I love fabric. And I love also the meaning of fabric because it's like interwoven. So it's almost like this, I don't know, you could take that so much deeper.
So it's like unity.
Yeah, it's just like it's like this woven of life. And I actually have this grant proposal that I've been trying to get approved, but it's like, it was threads of life. So it's like, you know, it is kind of the same thing with this installation. It's like these colors that are woven into each other and that participate in, you know, where you go. So yeah, I do have this fabric obsession.
So does like each of them tell you a story and you're like, I want to tell that story?
Yeah, and it's so dope because if you think about it, like, especially when I went to Java for like 3 weeks.
Oh, cool.
And I learned so much about how important fabric is, and especially the motifs, and that they mean something. And it's the same thing as in Africa, like the Adinkra, like they all mean something, and you could tell from like a piece of fabric that somebody's wearing if they're royalty, if who they are, what, you know, what their family is. And it's an extension. And I mean, realistically, all humans have used fabric in this way, because in Scotland, like the kilts, but it's fascinating, like that there's all this, and not a lot of people know any of this stuff, but I just like nerd out about that because like I think and symbols are everywhere, and people don't know that. But sometimes, like if I'm at a show and somebody's beside my work, I'll be like, oh, do you see that there's like this and this? Because I hide stuff in my work sometimes, and I'll write words, especially in the batik, or I'll do symbols, and it's meant to like to further expand the piece. And but it's the case for a lot of artists. I feel that they do that, but nobody knows.
What kind of symbols?
So like. I can't remember so one of my main symbols that I love is the Kawang pattern. Everybody who knows but it's the flower of life, and it's the actual Kawang pattern is one of the oldest patterns that's used in Java, and it's like it talks about life and universe and all the what do you call it? Sorry. Like the seasons and the directions of, you know, the world and all that stuff. So all those kind of stuff.
Like sacred geometry?
Yeah. So like the Kawang pattern, it's everywhere in my art, like a lot of places.
Okay, now we have to look for it.
Yeah. So it's because I have stamps, I draw it, but like other times, like, within my abstract pieces, I'll add, like I did a piece for a client, and I added like an Adinkra symbol of like a power, because that's what he, you know, that was like his personality, and I just tapped into it, and I was like, okay. So I just like doing stuff like that, because then it gives things more meaning, right? And there's talking points around that too, right? Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about this work now. Tell us about how it came to be. What does it mean to you? What was your process like?
So this piece was a collaboration with Kim, actually.
Hi.
So we were going to present this at the mall at Yonge and Dundas. And so what I was trying to do was find a way, because there's a huge influx of people that come through the mall. It's the one where the Adidas was. So we wanted to create a piece that reflected the fact that was such a busy intersection. And I wanted, you know, we talk a lot about people's energy and how we interact with them. because, you know, sometimes you meet people and you're like, whoa, like, because that was also a theme with me, like people saying, oh, you're too much and this and that. And it's like, what do you take on from people and what do you leave? Like, how do you interact? And so that's how this piece kind of came to be. I had done, so a little backtrack, the actual artwork is created from a series that I called Life Flow. So it was the Life Flow collection. And I was looking for ways to represent humans and in an abstract way. And the way I did that was look at that in terms of colors, like who we are as colors. So almost like chakras.
Yeah.
And like what energy you bring. So like cool, warm, hot, like are you mad? You know, like and in your day-to-day you come across that all the time. Like when I'm driving, I'm like, I'm this color. I'm for sure this color. As Jenny will know. I'm like, and so it's like, how do you, so I wanted to find something where people could interact with it, the installation. We had a really big space to work with. And so I came up with this concept of having these ribbons that people could walk through and kind of take in, like, what energy do they want to take or leave. Anybody who's walked through Yonge and Dundas knows how chaotic that intersection is. And every time I'm there, I'm like, don't talk to me, don't talk to me. Like, I'm just trying to get to Eaton Center a lot of times. But then there's a lot of madness, right? There's all these sounds and people trying to, like, you know, get change from you, or there's people banging or preaching the gospel. So, like, what do you do with all that energy? And also, it was a reflection of, like, when you're out in public or even when you're with your friends, like, what energy are you bringing to the conversation? And if you're always, like, negative, like, is that helpful? Or if you're always positive, is that helpful? And I think it's just kind of like this curating this balance. So how do you do that? Because that's one of my hugest words right now. Is like I write the word balance all the time because I just want to be balanced. Like, I love being high energy and I don't necessarily like being low energy. I just want to be here, which is a weird place because a lot of people say you can't create in that place, but I love creating in a place of balance because I don't want to be stressed out. I don't want to be stressed out. I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be like crazy, hyper happy. Just want to be good, you know? And I like the idea of people thinking about what they bring to meetings and meetups and what do you bring to the space. And so that's how this got created, because it was literally about also take a moment, just chill out. Take a moment to be and be present. So that's how this came about, you know.
Awesome. So it's kind of like this microcosm of your day, humanity, your emotions, and then it's asking you to be mindful of if you're this color, be mindful of when you're walking into the multicolor universe or the multiverse.
And it's also giving you permission to be all those things. It's okay to be all those things. Because I always look at people as like these, I had this like download one day because again, it was just something, again, there's been a lot of things about me being like a lot and people can't deal with my energy and all this stuff. And I took it on for a long time. And then I started seeing things like, well, this is my bubble and this is all the things that are me. You're here. So like, okay, you don't like my bubble? Cool. Like, roll out, you know? Or you like my bubble and you just want this much of my bubble, like to be within, you know, like this much? Cool. That's okay. That's on you. And so it's telling people, like, you can deal with everybody. You really can. You just know what to take and what to leave at the end of the day, right?
And when you were talking, I kept thinking about like your inner child. how you're giving your inner child permission to be who they are, to be seen, to be too much, to be all those things.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool. I could see this piece serving, to release that inner child in you, and with kids, like encouraging them to be all the colors of who they are.
Yeah,
and embrace them. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting because when I first showed this, like kids were like barreling through it. It was so much fun. Like we had this little girl, she was on her tricycle and she was like, and all this was like flowing all over the place. Yeah. And then, but adults are like, oh, can I come in here?
Yeah.
And the whole time I was here this weekend, I was like, please go in. Like, I'm like, you could do all this stuff.
You can touch it.
And then we were here earlier, and then this guy went in, and he's like, that was a lot of fun. And I was like, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. So I noticed you got a little emotional when I started bringing up the inner child. How does that resonate?
Well, for me, it's been a journey, like, because again, I police myself a lot. So a lot of times I have to say, it's okay. It's okay. You're
it's
good.
Like healing.
Yeah. It has been healing. And to create these things also, and to see people really connect with them. I think like my most humbling moment was when I presented the Goddess Flex collection, and it was in 2021, so we were still in COVID. And like there was a girl who was actually teared up, and I was like, oh my God. Like, because I just felt so, like, I always, I'm a Scorpio, so I dramatize a little bit. So, but I just felt like I'm the only one who's feeling this. But I realized I wasn't. And so it kind of liberates you from like, you're not crazy. You've got stuff to say, and like people connect with what you're saying, and it's actually valuable for them because it's helping them. Mm-hmm. So I think it's great because as I continue to create, and then I tap into like what I'm creating or explain what I just drew, which sometimes I don't know why. Like I'll draw something. The craziest things always happen to me in terms of when I'm creating, because I'll draw something like really crazy. Like I was drawing on my iPad, and I hyper focused this, like the inside of a flower, and I was like, this is really cool. This is gonna be a cool pattern. I finished it, and then I looked up like what the inside of the pattern is. I got a name. It's called Stigma, and then it talks about all the things that meant, and I was like, whoa, So there's always stuff like that just sync up for me. Like I'll just create I didn't create for a long time in like 2022 or 3. And I think it was like a whole year. I think I had 2 pieces that year. And the end of the year, I drew this woman, and she had no neck. Like she was wearing this jacket, and I had seen something, and I just had this idea of creating this woman with this gap in her neck. And then like I finished it, and then I had this conversation with a friend, and he talked to me about this black void and black space, and that it's represented in the neck. And then when I looked up stuff, it talked about how your neck is like your most, not most sacred space, but like most vulnerable. It was crazy. Like this is stuff that happens to me all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just cool. Like now I'm like, okay, cool, you're weird. Like just embrace it.
No, you're tapped in.
Yeah,
you're tapped
weird. I'm okay with weird.
No. So I think in today's society, with so much going on, your work serves to allow people to just let go.
Yeah.
They can go inside, and they can release anything that comes up. They can see like the patterns and just allow things to come forth.
Yeah.
And I think we need that right now, because we're holding so much, each one of us, with what's going on in all the media and politics and the crash from last night.
Yeah.
And so do you feel like, what do you want your art to do for the public, and right now where we are in this time?
I think I would like my art to allow them to be themselves, but also to be present and kind of let go as well. I mean, what's good for me is good for everybody, literally. I think that's what I would want from them, is just to be able to give themselves permission to be emotional, hence the emotional liberation piece of it. Just let it go, let it be who you are, you know? I think so, yeah.
Let's talk about blocks. How do you deal with like creative blocks, if you get them at all?
Dance it out. I don't have that many blocks. If I have blocks, it's mostly in like my commercial stuff, my design work. When I do have blocks, like I had a year where I just didn't want to create. And for the longest time, I was just like, what's wrong with you? My God, it's the end of days. And then I was like, it's okay. You just don't feel like doing it right now. It's okay. And it followed a period of time where I was very, very prolific. And like, to the point where I was just sick of myself. Like, why are you creating this? What does this mean? And so I stopped creating, and I just did other things. And I think I just started to really just say to myself, like, there's always a solution that's gonna come. You know?
So again, you gave yourself permission to stop. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, there's been a couple things that came up and things weren't working out as well as I wanted to. And then the solution came. I was like, okay, everything works out in my favor. I wrote it down. I wrote it down in my journal a couple times. Like, everything works out. So you just trust, and if it doesn't look good, the solution will come. I've been working on this like jade, because every year I do this donut illustration for Jay Dilla. And I've been working on one, and I'm like, I don't like this. And I'm like, what should I do? And this has been bugging me, and I'm just like, just leave it. Just come back, you know?
So it's good you don't wrestle with yourself.
I don't, no. I just go eat something or go dance.
No tortured artist vibe.
No, not at all. Not
Awesome.
at all. Yeah.
So what advice would you give somebody who's starting off in their creative journey and they don't know where they start, but they know they have something to say?
My biggest thing is just be consistent. Just consistency. Every day or every week, you put time and effort towards what you want to do. And because, I mean, I've been at this for a long, long time, and it's just now that I'm starting to do bigger projects, you know, and, you know, like my pattern work, I just got licensed like in April, and I was working on it for 4 years. So teaching myself, right? So I think consistency is the biggest service you can do yourself as an artist or as anything. You just got to be consistent and practice and draw, even if it's for yourself. Like, I give myself challenges. When I notice that I'm not creating, or that I'm doing things that don't connect, I'll just give myself a challenge. Like, the other thing too is when I notice myself performing in my art, meaning I just create for
the sake of it,
for the matrix, and then I'll be like, oh, that's not good. So then I'll just like, I challenge myself in December every day to I cut out these little squares, and every day you just pick up your watercolor and paint something. And none of it made sense, but it looked cool, so I was happy. You know. So
and then as you work on yourself, you continue to expand your work. So what's the relationship there that you could give advice to other creatives on how to make that connection?
That's such a personal journey, I think. I think it would just be to encourage them to work on themselves. I think there's so many people that, and also talk to others. Like, there's so many people that just keep to themselves about stuff that's happening. I'm a very curious person, so I think I just naturally seek out things. I think that's part of that's something that I would recommend people is just like, go look at stuff, like go talk to people, hang out with all your artist friends and just hang out and talk shit, like, or go to the art gallery, or just go by the water and, you know, like do stuff like that, because those things will
open up,
settle you to be able to see like the bigger picture, I think. Yeah.
And then let's talk about the colors. Are you attracted to a certain palette, vibe? I know you mentioned the chakras. Yeah.
I like bright colors. I do. I do like muted colors, and I'm kind of learning to work with muted colors more for commercial purposes. But it's funny because at the base of it, I started using very bright colors, which are like, you know, the reds, the yellows, the blues, because those are the dyes that are most available in batik. So all the colors that you see and this is all colors that I've used in batik. But I love pinks. Like I had this like black era of wanting to just wear black and, you know, all this stuff. And then all of a sudden I was like, I just went the complete opposite. So I like bright. I do. And yeah, the brighter, the better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Do you have any questions for me?
Anything curious?
They all know me way too much.
Any confessions?
Sean, do you have a question for me? You always have.
Do you prototype stuff like this at home?
Did I prototype that?
Like, I mean, do you build test installations to step up to something like that, or do you build that in the dining room?
I just go for it. I don't do prototypes. So this, I literally drew it on a piece of paper. And then I went, so the fabricators that did this, I worked, this was an old colleague of mine, and I literally went in with the sketch. I'm like, I'm trying to do something where I can hang ribbons. And then I sat with all the guys in the shop, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And then like the old Guyanese guy, he's like, well, and he's like, why don't you do it like this? And I was like, okay. And so I love, like, to me, I love that because like there's so many good ideas, but we didn't do a prototype, not at all.
Wow.
I just went straight to this, like from drawing to this.
Awesome.
And then originally, this was supposed to be fabric, but we ended up not doing the installation in the space because unfortunately they didn't want to go ahead after COVID, like because I had gotten the installation for 2020 and then it got delayed for 2 years. And when it was time to present it, they pulled back from the sponsorship, unfortunately. So I was like, I'm gonna make this happen. And so I basically then created a deck and found, I pitched all my fabricators and I was like, hey, you wanna help me?
Awesome.
So that's how I came up with this, but this is actually a fun fact. This is vinyl tablecloth from Dollarama.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and then what I did was we were in my mom's studio, and my mom had built this like pattern, and we cut all the threads, and then we glued it at the top.
Awesome.
So that's how that came about.
And the earrings, are they related to the piece?
Well, the earrings was because I had scraps. So, and then I was like, hey, Jenny, do you want to make me earrings? And she's like, yes, Gabrielle.
And then where's the soundscape? Are you going to play
Oh,
it
yeah,
after
I can play the soundscape.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, so do you want me to play it?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, okay.
And then we have just about like 8 minutes left. So
Yeah.
if anybody has any other questions, feel free. Otherwise, I think tell us about your soundscape and let's go from there.
So you guys know the sound that, if any of you go in the water and you put your head underwater. You know, you hear all that tinkling underwater, and it's like the rocks shifting, or it could be like little buggies doing their thing, and fish and whatever. And so like I got my diving license when I was like 14, and I love that sinking into the water, and it's like you're lost in this universe, but you still hear all these little sounds.
Wow.
And so when I thought of this, I hit up my friend Tyrone, who's a producer, house music producer, and I said to him, like, this is my idea, like you're underwater, but then you hear people talking and you hear like tinkling and stuff like that. So that's how that came about. And I actually went to Yonge and Dundas, and I walked like all around, and I taped people talking. And like you'll hear there's like horns and all this weird. And then I gave him all the recordings, and I also talked about the installation in French and English, and I just sent him everything.
Wow.
And then he created this.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it added like this feeling of like, see, you hear all the people.
Yeah.
The what?
A feeling of submersion.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's really, if you think about it, when you walk through a crowd, like, what are you doing? Like, you can pick out snippets of what people are saying if you're paying attention. If you're not, you know, you could totally miss it. So that's the whole point, like, whether or not you want to include yourself in the flow, or if you're just in the flow and you're just like, don't talk to me, I'm in the flow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally feel it. Well, your story is so inspiring. Thanks for sharing it and opening up. I think we learned a lot from you today. Yes.
I appreciate you coming, yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like you were a perfect person because you've seen me through like many different things, right?
I love where you're heading.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
this is awesome.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks
guys.
everybody.